Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Of course, the news hit like a gale yesterday. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has entirely restructured, if you want, by his action, the petroleum sector. Talking about, putting it in a headline. Mele Kyari is out, and it is now we have Mr. Bayo Ojulari as the group CEO. Okay, so a lot of programs have been talking about this. There's very little else that has been talked about. It's such an important sector and an important action by the president. But here we are. And this morning, we have two experts. The first of them is already in place, Dr. Vincent Nwani. Dr. Vincent Nwani is an economist and investment specialist. Good morning, Dr. Nwani.
Good morning. How are you? I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I did hear you. Thank you very much. Dr. Vincent Nwani is, apart from being an economist, is also an investment specialist. And this, maybe that's a fine place to take it from, because key points in the reason, in the explanation from the presidency is that if you had to reduce it to three things, the president is looking for enhanced operational efficiency, restored investor confidence, and, at the same time, a much more, profitable and better organized NNPC. So, Dr. Nwani, maybe your first comments on this. Your first comments on this surprising appointment that took immediate effect.
Thank you very much. Is it actually surprising from those of us in the thought leadership sphere and also the operators in the industry? It's not surprising. It's just that we are grateful and we're happy because this is a situation majority of us had expected to come much earlier than this. The agenda of this administration, part of the agenda written in black and white, was to effect a comprehensive, productive, efficient reforms.
Okay. The former group CEO, Mele Kyari, I've been hearing some commentaries that in his time, he has laid some stones, so to speak, in the pavement of NNPC's progress. Some things happened in his time that were good, but clearly the president is not yet happy. I mean, if they're talking about a more commercially viable NNPC, maybe we begin to look at it a few points. Look, this whole thing that the president came in and said that, you know what, let crude be lifted, let crude be supplied for Naira. That seemed to be a problem later on. And there are those who are now conjecturing that that whole incident might in its own way have hastened, what has happened now. First of all, your thoughts on, one, the Naira for crude among local refiners. And what do you think was the problem there? Because we were told in the news that this wasn't going to happen. So what do you think was going on? And I noticed that this particular point has been brought into the new team as a sort of matching orders. Say, revisit that issue of Naira for crude.
All right, thank you. Before you cut me short, I was just trying to say that the exit of the former board and the GMD of NNPCL is in the right direction. We had expected it much earlier than this, especially when the new administration was clearing the leadership of other key agencies like CBN, SEC, PENCOM, and the rest. We thought it would happen, but the president probably have more information than thought leaders. Having said that, I think the exit might not just be on Naira for crude is just a small part of what we had expected the NNPCL to have fixed long before now. Since 2016, when the groundbreaking ceremony of Dangote's refinery was done, Nigerians have been promised time without number, thousands of times that, hey, once this refinery is on board, we will stop importing. The money we're using to import will flow into other things. Reserve will be firmer. Exchange rate will be stable. A lot of, and we all believed. Only for the refinery to start operation, and we start hearing so many stories. So I think that that Nigerians deserve and request a clear openness and transparency regarding the relationship between NNPC and Dangote refineries, because with that we'll be able to actually know where the problem is. We thought that before now the modalities of getting crude, and to the refinery, and also getting refined products to Nigerians at the right price would have been smoothing out. So I suspect that in between the line, things around vested interest, uncompleted deals happened. And that is why we have always asked the question, what is the issue? Tell us the whole story, so that we deserve to know. And I believe that the new administration led by Dr. Ojulari, well experienced, well qualified on paper. I believe we need a lot of moral authority to also deliver beyond this exciting experience in that industry. That is the first, I think, is the low-hanging fruit. In the next 1 month, 2 weeks, we want that space to be cleared.
Okay.
Giving us that confidence, because over the last few days, we've seen fuel price jump by about 100 naira in Lagos, but I don't know what it was in other parts of the countries that are far from the port. So Nigerians are the ones bearing this brunt of NNPC Dangote refinery competition or conflict of interest. They say that where two elephant fights is the grass that suffers. Nigerians are the grass here. Beyond that, the NNPC today serve as the operator and also regulator in this almighty industry that contribute about 10% to Nigerian GDP and about 80% to FX, that's foreign earnings. This is not a sector we can just toy with and continue to just treat it as a business as usual. Remember that during the during the term of
sorry, are you through? I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, because the question I was going to ask is, first of all, there's been, I think just about every Nigerian knows that the affairs of the NNPC, you don't use transparency in connection with the affairs of NNPC in the same sentence. But people have been observing that what the president has done with his broom, so to speak, is been to bring in technocrats, apolitical technocrats, and people have been celebrating that fact. So I don't know. I don't know what how you see this. One, that transparency is much to be desired, and then two, that the group, from the group CEO down, everybody is said to, the whole team, the 11-man board, they're all, seasoned technocrats. How important is this?
I'm happy that the technocrats, seasoned technocrats, experienced technocrats have been selected at this time. Like you said, the president has used his political broom to clean up his house. That's fine. But like I said before, for these new technocrats, well experienced, well profiled in the industry to perform, they need more than experience and technical competencies.
Okay.
They need moral. They need moral authority and political backing to be able to deliver their job. See, the greatest problem of NNPC leadership, or even a leadership at the high level in this country, is the ability and the authority to step on toes. If the current or the new NNPC leadership is going to deliver as expected by Nigerians and the president, having given him some initial KPIs, key performance indicator, he should be prepared to step on toes. and it's not the toes of Nigeria, the toes of the vested interest that have made it difficult for transparency to reign in NNPC, for NNPC to make the type of impact that other national oil companies are making across the world. A glaring example is the Aramco of Saudi Arabia, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the most transparent, one of the, by profit, by whatever indices you want to compare. So I think that the starting point, the president have done the right thing by putting the rand hole, or the rand, how did they say this? Putting the right people at the right place. But they need this political backing to be able to do their work and clean up that environment. That is the only way that some of these things we are talking about will finally materialize. And we need to see that KPI. I heard that one of the KPIs that they have to move daily oil production to 3 million barrels per day. That's impressive. Nigerians need to get this fuel at the right price, and importation has to slow down while we rely on the refinery we have here, in whatever model or the other. In doing all of these things, like I said, vested interests need to be crushed as much as possible. And some of these vested interests are in the high places in the other commercial environment, private sector, and the political environment. Some of them are friends to the leaders. Are you ready to step on those toes? I think that is even more important than the qualification and the experience that the new NNPC leadership have, and we're happy about.
Okay. All right then. Dr. Wani, one moment while I introduce Mr. Kyari Oyedeji. Mr. Kyari Oyedeji is also billed on this program. In fact, I don't know if we have connected with him yet. He's an economist. Good morning to you, Mr. Oyedeji, if you can hear us.
Yeah, good morning, Kyari. I can hear you.
Oh, good morning to you, sir. I was just saying that Kyari Oyedeji, he's an economist. Thank you very much for joining us. Would you, if you like, would you also join on this whole matter about the significance of having apolitical people now really in charge in the NNPC, from the 11-man board to the the new group CEO? Much has been made of the fact that for the first time in Nigeria's history, NNPC is actually peopled by the kind of individuals that we're talking about. They are not political, and it keys in very much with what Dr. Wani was saying earlier, that he feels that one of the most important desires would be the freedom to do the job the best way they know possible, without any fear of political, responsibilities or political affiliations or anything like that. Your thoughts on this whole question about apolitical people filling up the board and the, management of the NNPC now?
Thank you very much, Kyari, for having me.
Thank you, sir.
I think the president has made some very wonderful appointments there. They are the man in charge of the board, the man in charge of the management. Both of them are great industry leaders and professionals who would take the industry further. And I dare to say that NNPC today is not the NNPC we had before the Petroleum Industry Act came into being. The NNPC we have today is a commercial entity, is a business-oriented company, is a company that has a responsibility to make money, to develop oil and gas infrastructure, and at the same time, create a lot of wealth for government and individuals. The two men at the ends of affairs now, I mean, the man in charge of the board and the new man in charge of management, they are obviously round pegs in round holes. And I think the president has, by that decision, made it clear that it is not going to be business as usual. The spirit of the Petroleum Industry Act must have reflected very much in the choice of these guys, of these men, these professionals, and their jobs are clearly cut out. Is to take the industry to the next level, is to prepare an NNPCL that will be in the same mode with the Petrobras of Brazil or or the Aramco of Saudi Arabia that will be independent as much as possible. So I don't see so much of politics in this. The two key figures are already well known to be great industry players. I don't see much of politics in this. They have clear mandates to take the industry further, increase oil output, develop the gas resources so that Nigeria can earn as much as possible from gas. Many people don't know that we have more potentials even in gas than we have in crude oil. So these are the things which we think the management will be focused on. It's not just going to be about Dangote refinery, Naira crude, dollar crude, or whatever. It's going to be a whole lot of many things coming on board, the privatization of NNPC itself. So when you look at the way the Petroleum Industry Act has redefined the NNPC itself, you discover that there's very little room for politics. Those who have been appointed have two options: perform or leave. And I think that message must have been very clear to them, even without anybody telling them. You either perform or you leave. The era where you hide under government bureaucracy, the era where you hide under politics, regional politics, sectional politics, I think that era is gone. Nobody is interested in whether the two of them are from the north, the two of them are from the south. What people are focusing on at this point is that these are great industry professionals. They have the pedigree, they have the credentials, they have they have the competence to drive the industry to the next level. And I think that's going to be the focus. They have a lot of work to do. The work is very clearly cut out. The NNPC that we have post PIA is one that is lagging behind, is one that has not reflected Nigeria's huge potential in oil and gas. And we think with the structure they have now, they will be able to drive that process, drive that company to be able to stand at par with Petrobras of Brazil or Aramco of Saudi Arabia.
Okay, all right then. Dr. Wane, when it was said in the statement that the president, in fact the government, in fact Nigerians are looking forward to a more commercially viable NNPC. Could you break that down for us a bit? What exactly is the import of that? A more commercially viable NNPC?
All right, thank you. A commercially viable NNPC or even any corporate suggests that the strategy to make money in an efficient manner, to run like a corporate organization, that corporate attribute has to reflect. They have to make money. Aramco makes, I can't remember their last profit, so I don't give the wrong information, but it's in hundreds of billions per annum. It's in hundreds of billions, the revenue coming, and profit is also quite handsome. We've seen NNPC making losses, making marginal profit that is very little, compared to their potential and their size. These are some of the things we want to correct by this new appointment. Appointing the qualified, well-experienced people, putting round peg in a round hole. But remember that this is not the first time we are appointing qualified people to this position. Ibe Kajugu, during the last political administration was there. So that is why I said that beyond their qualification and the experience, the good news is that the Petroleum Industry Act made it a bit easier for this current administration or the new administration of NNPC.
Yes.
But beyond that, a lot of moral authority need to come in. It needs to come in. The industry needs to be developed. They need to find a balance between being a quasi-regulator and a full operator, where they have to also compete with other operators in that space. These are very, very difficult times, and it's difficult because we know that we've been reforming as a country, and the consequence of those reforms, we have to take a lot of hits. So wherever the president can get what I can call success stories, especially in the oil and gas, will be very, very key for the leadership and for the country. You know, it is very, very important. We want to, and I think the starting point is to even spell out these KPIs, you know, set the goals and objectives for them, but break it down into smaller KPIs and time it. So that in 3 months' time, what we want to see, in 6 months' time, in 1 year time, and we will be able to come back and appraise their performance. And like my colleague said, it's either they perform or they leave.
Indeed.
And I believe that the president have that charisma to hire and fire with regards to the efficiency and productivity of the new NNPCL.
In the NNPCL. So, Mr. Oyediji, I guess this links up with the charge to restore investors' confidence. Talk to me a bit about that, because we've been hearing that this is one of the problems we have generally, not just in the oil sector, but this whole matter about investors' confidence, at least as it relates to the NNPCL that we're talking about now. Talk to us a bit about the shall we say, the modus. How are they going to arrive there? Because I guess there must be some universal formulas as to what the minimum requirement is if an investor is going to say that I can take my hard-earned precious funds to this environment. So what needs to change?
Okay, I think I would make reference again to the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. One thing that Act has done is to redefine the responsibility of different stakeholders within the oil and gas environment. And for instance, NNPCL is practically stripped off of its regulatory responsibility. For instance, it's practically a commercial entity, as I said earlier. Its major responsibility includes to act as a custodian of government oil and gas assets. And indeed that it has to interface with key investors in the sector, especially the JVC partners and all of them. And it also empowers the NNPC, for instance, to take on business initiative in the oil and gas sector that will boost its wealth, boost its revenue, be able to please its own investors, and begin to network with other investors from all over the world. So there are marginal fields, there are deep sea fields that have not been properly priced before. We expect the NNPC to bring in a lot of transparency in this, negotiate as a business entity, not just as a social entity like it used to be before. So everything, the parameters are properly set out in the PIA and in the way the NNPC will behave post PIA. The life it has taken up now is one that is business minded, is one that will seek and attract investment to boost its own earnings. And it's both sides. People begin to see the NNPC itself as our own investment too. And for the NNPC must have initiative to make sure that foreign investors, local investors, they're all galvanized to partake in the oil and gas sector so that it can also boost its own income. And don't forget that the NNPC is also planning to come to the market. If all things work as we've been told, the NNPC is likely to come to the capital market to undertake an initial public offer that will confer the right on wide majority of Nigerians and even non-Nigerians to take ownership in that company. So the dynamics of its operation has changed. The important thing now is for the regulators, which the regulators for the upstream, for the midstream and the downstream, to begin to look at how to create the enabling environment. And in spite of the fact that the NNPC itself is no longer the regulator, it has the political will, if I can put it that way, to influence policies within the industry, to influence government commitments. So the NNPC will still continue to play a very buoyant role in the sector because it represents the overwhelming interest of government in oil and gas sector. But in terms of attracting investment, it has to make sure that government policies are influenced as much as it can to aid its own investment objective, begin to behave the way Aramco has done in Saudi Arabia. And if you also look at the business dynamics of Petrobras, for instance, Petrobras takes up virtually anything in the oil and gas sector for the purpose of making money for itself, so that it can declare profit to its owners, particularly the government of Brazil. So the NNPC will begin to do more of this. And even within itself, there must be that competitiveness, there must be that urge to make money. We've seen what NNPC retail has done in the last 3, 4, 5 months, struggling to compete with Dangote.
Yes.
We are going to see more of that. NNPC retail is now on its own. It cannot afford to make loss. At the same time, it cannot afford to let the people who owns it presently let them down. So you begin to see a lot of changes as the company transits from being a wholly government-owned to a profit-oriented wealth management outfit. So
Okay.
if this is done properly, you can be sure that a lot of investment will also come into the sector.
Okay.
And NNPC will be at the forefront of attracting this investment.
Well, thank you very much. Now, Kyari and Vincent, just to tell you that I'll take a quick break now out of Vincent Wani, economist and investment specialist, and Mr. Kyari Oyedeji, economist. I was speaking with Kyari last, just before we went away. But coming back now, Vincent, could I bring to you the question of that I've heard people say that one of the challenges we have in our NNPC, is that it is felt that it's a thoroughly politicized organization. Now, what do I know about it? So it's important that I say that this is what you hear. And now people have been talking about apolitical, people being brought on. So the question that people are wondering about is that, will politicians, will they let them do their job, suggesting, without knowing too much about these matters, that politicians have always had their ways of interfering for their own benefit in the operations of the NNPC. Are we to take it that that kind of a thing is entirely out the window now and cannot happen anymore? Dr. Wani.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I believe that the Petroleum Industry Act would have done justice to that on the paper. To minimize government interference, political interference in the activities of the NNPCL to a large extent. I believe I'm not conversant with that bill in terms of clause by clause provision, in terms of governance, but I believe that the right corporate governance would have been in place. But having said that, we're in Nigeria. We are in Nigeria, an enterprise where the president have the right to hire and fire, an enterprise where maybe 90-something% of their staff are still civil servants or public servants. They were hired publicly as we speak. To be honest, it will take some considerable transition period for that corporate to resemble corporate. When you want to hire a new bank chairman, a new chairman of a bank, or a new CEO of a bank, it's not the governor of a state or the president of a country that does that. It is within it's not by appointment. It is within the framework of corporate governance of that organization. So I believe that my colleague may have a clearer position in terms of what the law says about that. But no matter what the law may have said, the Petroleum Industry Act may have said, this is Nigeria, where political players have a way of probably influencing everything. And that is why I've always said, in my first comment, that beyond their profile in the oil and gas industry, their track record and qualification, that moral will is even more important at this time. The ability to say no to an authority in a humble but firm manner. The ability to shield that organization from political interference. But because without doing so, we can always achieve what we want to achieve. But it will be far less than 50%. It will be far less than 50% of our target, unfortunately.
All right.
So whatever needs to be done, the characteristics of the board chairman of NNPC and the group of NNPCL and the group
CEO.
managing director
Okay.
will play a lot of role to shield the political players, back to the back seat.
Okay. Let me take this first caller. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for calling in from Lagos.
Good morning, Uncle Kyari, and good morning to the two guests. Uncle Kyari, those places you are hearing on the media, they are organized about Mele, which this is a man that superintended over a notorious subsidy scam. It came to the point of zero return of revenue from NNPC to the federal government. And then when Dangote money, this same group of people in that sector waged a war against Dangote to make sure he doesn't succeed. Government says, give this man crude in Naira for the sake of the people. They make sure he didn't succeed. Every day, fight. Today, fight. Tomorrow, fight. This is a man, Uncle Kyari, that not under his watch, polluted petrol was imported into this country. So many people lost their cars in the process, and nothing happened to the importers. The refineries that they are talking about, government has spent money and money and money on what they call turnaround maintenance. If we reach a point where it will work, they will make it not to work until this president came, and all of a sudden we now saw the refineries now working. They were already in that state before, but they will make sure it doesn't function. And they are telling us that he did this, he did that. For me, if I were the president, that Mele should be put on trial and investigated for all these atrocities that didn't allow things to work in that sector. And Uncle Kyari, the current team that the president has appointed will still have difficulties if they do not work with a compliant minister, the minister that the president has put to oversee that sector. If I were the president, that minister should also be redeployed and bring in another minister that can be compliant with these professionals he has put in place. Otherwise, we may go back to square one. Good morning.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Let me bring this over to Kyari Oyedeji. This whole question of people worrying or wondering if the politicians will let them do their job. And Dr. Wani has been speaking about moral authority. I think, I don't know if it was you or if it was him, people have been saying that they need, the NNPC we need now, they need to be unafraid of stepping on toes, if the case may be. This whole matter about interference for personal interest by politicians, do you see it as a thing that's out the window now?
Well, I will say I will bring on board two major factors at this point. Number one is that the NNPC is not an end in itself. It's a company, it's a business entity that is under regulation. And there are two regulatory agencies within that sector. And those two regulatory agencies are independent of the operators. They are not responsible to the operators. So from time to time, they will do their basic checks and they will perform their regulatory functions to make sure that each operator, including NNPCL, operates within the terms agreed or within what their licenses allow them to do. So we are not going to see so much deviation from business orientation from NNPCL going forward. Like I said earlier, the life of NNPCL has been redefined, remolded by the PIA. And yes, the company is in transition. But you see the quality of men we have on the board of this company, they are not people who can be pushed around. And that leads me to the second factor. The second factor is that the president himself understands the essence of the oil and gas industry. Don't forget that he created a distinct sub-ministry for gas alone. He understands the relevance of the sector. And we also need to know that even the president himself is a product of oil and gas sector. He understands what has to be done, what has to be achieved, and by his tradition or by history, he gives people free hand, independence to do their work as much as possible. By and large, we need to emphasize that the new NNPC, the NNPCL, is a distinct business-oriented company, a business entity managing oil and gas resources in Nigeria, within and outside Nigeria, and it will have a lot to be going forward. We would need to emphasize also that if it doesn't live up to its own expectation, the results will be clear. The targets are there, the key performance indicators are there. So NNPC cannot afford to jettison its business targets, pursuing politics. It will be to the detriment of the management and the board in particular. So the scenario is not entirely what it used to be when NNPC was under the armpit of the president. Okay. Presently, apart from the two bodies, the president is the only one who has a bit of oversight over what NNPC can do. And I hope that oversight power, responsibility will be positively used to encourage NNPC to compete with global oil and gas giants across the world.
Okay. All right, then. And thank you very much, Mr. Yakub in Dokwemo, for holding on. Go ahead now, Mr. Yakub.
Thank you very much, Chief Kyari. Good morning, sir. And then good morning to your chief guest.
Thank you.
Chief Kyari, I think I totally agree with Mr. George here. For me, Mele Kyari has to go before now. It is overdue before now. Because Chief Kyari, it's only this country that we had a Dangote refinery that says that at least can give us a more than 50% of what we needed to use as TMS in this country. And then Mele Kyari and his co-hosts, they still claim that our own refinery, Nigerian refinery, are working. And then they still went ahead and issued the license for certain people to import the same PMS outside the country. What is that? What is that? What are they trying to tell us? So when we have a Dangote refinery that claim that it's working more than maximum 60% that of what we are able to consume, and then you claim as MD that our whole refinery also working. Chief Kyari, we are still issuing the license to some certain people to go and bring the PMS again. As Mr. George rightly said earlier, Chief Kyari, it is only this country some people perpetrate evil and then they scot go free. That time that they were brought adulterated fuel into this country. And then we heard that there's some country that brought this fuel under the leadership of Mele Kyari. And nobody go down for it. And then, okay now, those people, some of us have bought that fuel at that time, and then our car has issue. Who compensates us? Nobody. And then up to now, some people lost their car, and then they have never got another car up to this moment. And then Mele Kyari still remain in that office up to the moment that Mr. President said, okay, you should go. And then what Mr. George also said, I would like to see that. The system, I'm talking about the Minister of Petroleum now, the one that is superseded all these things before Mele Kyari, he should be able to leave that place and then brought another person to supersede that place. Because the president MD now is going to have issue. There's no doubt about it. Whether you like it or not, it's going to have issue. He still have some candidates on certain people in that NNPC. Why is the NNPC is looking like a court is that we don't even know? In fact, of recent, they were beginning to tell us this is the landing cost. Who hacks them? Who hacks them? Out of this moment, we have the refinery, and then imagine when we have the refinery, Dangote refinery, another refinery, the PMS price is still continue going up. What are they trying to tell us? Good morning, and God bless you, Caesar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakub. Appreciate your call in. Dr. Vincent Wani, the matter about, there was a time when it seemed like good news. We were told that the Kaduna refinery was now going to be up and would be doing some things, would be supplying a certain quantity, for example, and then people say that they actually couldn't deliver on that. So it did look, we've spoken about transparency here this morning. So people are saying that we need more of it as opposed to things that are just told to the minister, told to the president, without it actually being so. For instance, the other local refineries, when there had been this clamor for see what you can do to bring them back on stream. And it was said that indeed it had been done, but it turned out that, it turned out to be disappointing, to put it briefly. How about that whole situation? This ties up with the whole matter about transparency.
Okay, you remember that my first comment here is that it is better late than never.
Yes.
Kyari and his team of management in NNPCL would have gone since. You know, why the president left him for 18 months, we don't know, but it's better late than never. No, because the damage caused over the last 18 months were quite monumental. And we're praising the new appointments, their track record and everything, including myself. But you know what? All of those people responsible in different positions of authority, giving us fake promise that Kaduna Refinery will start working 22 months' time, 3 months' time, it never worked. That Port Harcourt Refinery, it never worked. You know, all the crisis around Dangote Refinery and crude for dollar crisis, you know, and so on and so forth. If this new administration in NNPC discovered that none of these people were held responsible to account or even punish where found culpable, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Nobody is an angel. We all do what we need to do because we know that if we don't do them, there will be consequences. But if people in your position have gone through that position, do what they want to do without any consequences, it will not encourage you to do your best. So one of the ways the president will help us to ensure that this capable team he has appointed will deliver their work is to visit what the former team did and get them to account. I won't say punishment now, but get them to account because Nigerians are holding them to account already. We are not happy with so many of their performance and their results, and we paid for it.
All right.
You know, I also understand that the president is the current minister of petroleum. I don't know what the act says about corporate governance, you know, but if the act has said that they will become a minister of petroleum, let there be minister of petroleum that is also private sector driven, that will complement the activities of this new management, because whether we like it or not, president is very, you know, he's so busy. Nigeria is big with a lot of crises. You know, we need somebody that will be there 24 hours, you know, ensuring that to give this management support to the new administration of NNPC.
Okay, one moment, please. Mazi Okorafo, thank you for holding on in Arochukwu. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Sayuri. Good morning again. I don't think Sayuri, he changed ambassador that the president is very, very, very so coming at the rightful time. In the sense that the NNPC have to go back to the good shape of NNPC. Now, as someone will tell the cabals have said that we have that men with integrity, men with stamina. When you look at them, you know that they have something to offer. When looking at their pictures alone, they are seen on the screen. So that the people on board right now are the benefactors. I would suggest to the authorities concerned, the new management, that this modular refinery that we have been talking about, let them see how they can make it that it will be functional. At least in Nigeria today, we have chemical drugs that are here. If it's in China or Israel, they will use them. Let the new management make use of these new young men and women we have in our sector. Let them take them to this modular refinery so that we have TVC. We have petrol, it will help us. You know, crude oil is something that when you carry this crude oil, you generate nothing less than 6,000 items from it. But what are we doing? These things are being wasted. And the authorities will concern that the better. When we start producing something like when they put this in the refinery, kerosene will be cheap. Even if I they are talking about that, it's not there. But kerosene is nothing to write on. But when we talk about kerosene, using kerosene will save our forest. That is it. So I'm calling the authority concerned, the new management. You people, medical and
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much, Mazi Okorafo. Actually, our time is far spent, but the one thing that a lot of people, just about, and certainly my two guests this morning, the renewed hope in the oil sector, at least we're getting something of an indication of it. The work has been cut out for them, the whole management and board, the work has been cut out for them. I understand that was a bit surprising that they had to start immediately, and they actually had some, you know, some parameters that they shouldn't miss. I want to thank you both, gentlemen. Dr. Vincent Wani, economist and the investment specialist, thank you very much. And Mr. Kyari Oyedeji, I want to thank you very much, economist. Thank you very much for giving us the benefit
Thank you very much. Thank you
of
too.
your insights. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. And we're going to